All right. So, hi everyone. Ben from Base Art Department. Let's talk about toy making toys. So, I've got a couple of things that I can pull up here to show. I'm using my little phony phone. So, usually whenever you buy something that's been like a toy that's been made now from a company, it is plastic injection molded, which means that you're taking little plastic pellets and heating them up, melting them, and then with pressure and force, forcing them into a mold. Usually the mold has sprues like so. This is a 40K thing, so they're quite small, but you can see like legs, little torso pieces, arms, and then all this heavier uh, squarish pieces are the sprue. So like it gets forced in, it flows down through, fills out your pieces, and then usually there's like vent holes on the edge to let air out and stuff like that. And it makes it so that there is a minimal to no bubbles in your plastic. So a machine for plastic injection molding could be quite expensive. I had to pause there because someone outside decided to beep their horn and make my dog flip out. So it ended up just being for the neighbors, but great. Please don't honk your horns. So yeah, injection molding machines, you can get like hobby sized, like cheap, basically a toy, as nice as that is, or as the nice way of saying it, just kind of a piece of junk for like $1,000 for plastic injection molding. That's either with an extruder or like pneumatic pressure. Either way, it's a hand operated, usually single piece, not this big. When I say single piece, I mean like small mold. So that's $1,000 for a large one. To do something like this, it's going to be several $1,000s, like easily 5 figures. And maybe you could get one for cheaper that's used, but I don't know. With large equipment, I get a little bit nervous because you never really know what you're getting, especially if you're someone like me who's getting into this stuff. Imagine going and dropping $25,000 on something that you really don't know all that much about, and then realizing that it's like at the end of its life and you have to put another 10 grand into fixing it. So that's not something I would want to do. Plus the fact that making molds for injection molding is going to be expensive as well. I have my small CNC router, and by small I mean it's a 4 foot by 4 foot, but it would be difficult for me to produce molds for myself. And so at that point, it would be, again, probably a couple $1,000s a mold. Also, I have one of the issues that you have with mold making, so like that, but with that sprue is all one sheet because it's very, very small pieces. I mean, these miniatures are about yay big-ish. Actually, I don't have a 40K mini laying around right now. But that also means that if you want to go larger, like action figure size, you would have to do many, many pieces. And then you also have to worry about things such as mold lines, which you can kind of see on old Akuma here, with like the flashing on his knee, the lines in the back of his legs, where all this stuff is just where the clam shape of the mold would sandwich together. And so you have a little bit of like overfill for flashing, so something that you could scrape off. But the more times you have to touch something, the more time, effort, and money you have to put into it. Which, like, it's the balancing act of, you want to make the best product you can while not being like, hey, this is my one piece that I ever made and it took me a lifetime and it's the most amazing thing you'll ever have, but there's only one in the world. I mean, I want to make cool stuff. I want to iterate quickly, prototype quickly, so that I can both get things into people's hands, but also so that I can get repetition and learning and figuring out my process. So something like injection molding in-house a action figure of this size, it's not going to happen for a very long time. Because of that, you have kind of the rise of 3D printers. So back there. And 3D printers are way cheaper. Like, you can get them for $100. You can get something that could print decent quality. For several $100s, you're getting into really good quality. And then for that $1,000 mark, you're getting top of the line. So as you get in the thousands. Also, it has its own challenges though. So this is a prototype of a art toy figure that my coworker and I were talking about designed. It's the Slut Gator. She's supposed to have a cigarette, but it broke. But this came out like, which is a rapid prototype with a cheaper 3D printer. Has its own issues again. I don't know how well you can maybe see or not see this here, but yeah, you can see these kind of like unnatural lines going through it where it had some bed adherence issues. Then like the tail is not supposed to be like that, so it's the whole thing slipped and slid. And that's because whenever these guys are made, if you don't know about 3D printing, there's usually a UV screen at the bottom. Screen meaning like TV, LCD screen. And it actually would be like this. The build plate would be like where my hand is, and it's slowly dipping, starting from the plate and working her way up. So her feet were printed first, and then it slowly, the light will click on and cure that UV resin into layers, which, like I said, has its own issues, but way faster, way easier to do small runs of things, way quicker to do quick prototyping. Still has issues where like there's a lot of hand finishing that I'll have to do to smooth things out, to remove lines, even in the best of cases. Where should I have it in my pocket? Oh, there it is. So like my first CyberFrog prototype, I end up sanding and sandblasting and glass bead blasting him just to see how smooth I could get him, even though he's not going to be the one that I end up molding for my final cast, because I made some changes to his mold. Like he no longer has little nostrils. I made his shoulder spikes longer, and just kind of changed down the proportions on him. So that lets me prototype faster. And whenever I talk about making molds, that's because I'm going to kind of this new middle ground. The new middle ground is, so like you have your plastic action figure, little bit of weight. It's probably, I don't know if it's ABS or PETG or what type of plastic exactly. Then I've got my UV resin, which is a little bit more brittle, or in this case it's more costly because I made this one solid. Like he's not gonna crush, he's not hollow. Usually people will make stuff hollow to save on the resin because it costs like $20 to $30 ish for a small jug, so that uses a lot. What I want to do is making Sofubi, or soft vinyl toys, which are like so old Godzilla kaiju type monsters. So he has a little bit of squish, he bounces right back. Usually the colors aren't super crazy, and you can see this one actually has a so he's got a little bit of articulation in his arms and the feet down here, but not much, very little. And then you can see there's a seam right underneath the shell. So that means that he was molded in, well, so these 2 arm joints, 2 leg joints, so that's 4 pieces, 5 with the shell, 6 with the rest of the body. So 6 pieces to make him, versus all the posability and pieces of Akuma here, where you got knees, lower leg, foot, actually his toes even have a joint, arms, elbow, wrist, head, neck, shoulder, butterfly joints that let his shoulders rock back and forth. Like that's a lot of pieces, and but it's also more than just a 3D printed statue. So I want to hit this level. This is what I'm gunning for, something that's cheaper to produce so I can keep prices down, squishy so it'll hold up, so kids or people can play with them, but they're also kind of just meant to set out and display, not just sit in their packaging. So in order to make Sofubi, making Sofubi, or soft vinyl toys, is you have your master sculpt. In this case, it will be similar to my little CyberFrog. Then I will pour a mold around him of like polyurethane or silicone, let that harden, then make a wax casting inside of that. So I'll have a wax version of that little CyberFrog. Then paint him with like a graphite or a nickel type conductive spray. That'll go into a sulfuric acid and distilled water bath with copper sulfate and then electrical anodes stuck to it to electroplate them, which then should hopefully turn into something like so. This is just something I bought off eBay for like 10 bucks, but it's a slush molding or soft vinyl molded mold. So this is the outside. This is, I believe, made of brass. I think he was supposed to be a king with a scepter. So I think this is his scepter. That's his hand, crown, nose, cheeks. So the outside looks kind of blobby, but I don't know if I can get the light inside or not. But inside is where you'll have all of your detail. And you'll have to trust me on this because the lighting is a lot more detailed and smooth than this chunky thing. This is just to give it the durability and weight to hold up from pouring this soft vinyl mixture. Then you would heat it up so that it starts to gel that soft vinyl, and then you pour out the excess to reuse it, put it back into either, I think usually it was hot oil, so you're basically deep frying a toy, to heat it back up to finish curing it, and then hand pulling the soft vinyl before trimming it, assembling, and painting. So you can actually see here where it threaded into like a base for them to actually move it around between processes. So yeah, eventually that brass mold ends up forming parts like this, and once they set up, they're like still a little bit flexy and squishy, but they pop right back. They're still very hard. Like you're not going to easily break or rip it. It's more firm than like a rubber ducky or a dog toy. So I just kind of wanted to sit down and do a little dive into some of the stuff. There are several other people on YouTube who have shown the breakdown processes of how to make soft vinyl toys and other ways to make toys. I've watched several of them. That's where I've picked up a lot of these tips and tricks and ways to do things, a lot of the equipment that I've slowly accrued. So yeah, my first round of art toys or Chibi toys for CyberFrog are going to be resin 3D printed, and I will paint them. That's kind of proof of concept. It's going to be a limited run, maybe like 25. Then once I'm done with them and I see how things go, I will do another run of polyurethane rotocasted. So there'll be another single piece, but they'll have some squish to them. Or I might just jump straight to the soft vinyl, and that's where I want to end up. But I have these intermediate areas I could go. And the polyurethane rotocast is similar, where you'll be making the mold, then putting it in a rotocasting machine, which are pretty cool. I should have mine coming here the next week or so, and filling it with a little bit of silicone or polyurethane, letting that rotate until it cures, and then there shouldn't really be much of the line of mold lines, and they should all pop together pretty good. So I'm looking forward to getting that out there. That's hopefully the next step. If not that, then I'll be jumping straight to the soft vinyl, and we'll get into that swing of things, and it'll be pretty fun. And I'm excited to keep moving forward on this project. I never move as fast as I want to. I appreciate all of the feedback and advice and kind words that people have been giving me. My own personal little flaw, one of the many, is that I don't take compliments well. So people will be like, "Hey man, this looks awesome," and I always will just be like, "Yeah, I got to work on this, this, and this," instead of just saying thank you. So I'm going to stop right now and say thank you so very much, first of all, for supporting and get all the like shares, kindness, like good comments, criticisms, critiques, things I could change. And also thank you for taking the time to watch this video. So I believe I'm going to start a Substack soon to try to just kind of have a little newsletter to pump out to people. I'm not going to spam anyone. Also, I believe, at least for this initial run, I'm going to be utilizing coffee or Ko-Fi, however, to drop these just for minimal overhead, minimal friction to get things out to people, and see where we go with it. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day.